Good day, everyone. So we are the Group A, and we are assigned to report about the Noli Tangere context and content. Next, please. So here are the two learning objectives. So first is describe the context of the publication of the Noli Tangere and discuss the major elements of the Noli Tangere as a novel. Next. So this chapter will explore the context of the publication of Denali. The novel's major elements will also be appraised from its main characters and settings, and its plot and major conflicts will be tackled. Next. So here are the vocabulary. So first is a novel, a long written story most often about fictional events and characters. So novel, it is a relatively long work of narrative fiction, written in prose and published as book. Next is setting in a novel. So the context in which the events take place covers geographical areas in particular periods of time. So setting, we all know this as a part of a story or even novel. So it is where the time and place a story is told. So the last one is plot, the flow of the narrative in a story. So Jose Rizal's first novel, Noli Tangere, is considered one of the most important written outputs by the national here at the heights of his intellectual endeavors in Europe. So we all know Noli Tangere, but I think not all of us knows that it is Rizal's first novel, which is amazing, right? So he used his intellect sa mga nakatunan niya while traveling Europe. So, in this novel, Rizal mastered his academic acumen. Acumen means the ability to make good judgment and quick decisions. So, acumen as he tapped his knowledge of various fields and wove a narrative that aimed to represent, if not expose, the realities of 19th century colonial life in the Philippines. So, as discussed sa previous group, 19th century, so kanang here are the Spaniards that govern the Filipinos and the country niya. Mostly Filipinos is gihimo nila nga slaves. So next slide please. So the publication of Denoli. So as a sojourner in Europe, Rizal participated in the movement of the Ilustrados to utilize propaganda to campaign for reforms in the Philippines. So Ilustrados, so katuning mga Filipino educated class. They write a small group of scholars, mga native-born nga intellectuals. So Rizal's exemplary mastery of words was clearly evident in one of his most celebrated works. His first novel is Noli Tangere. So he proposed to write a book project to be done collaboratively with his fellow writers. Unfortunately, the project did not materialize. Next, please. So Rizal decided to write a novel on his own. He started work on the project in 1884 and completed it in 1887. So many of his biographers cite several works that influenced Rizal in the writing of the Noli. So one of these is Juan Luna's paintings Poliarium. So we all know this. And another is Uncle Tom's Cabin at Novel by Harriet Beecher Stowe. So Uncle Tom's novel, major theme ani niya is the problem of slavery and the treatment of humans as property. So inspired ni siya sa memoir of a real person. So this book is about anti-slavery na novel about black people. Next slide. So Rizal finished the first half of the novel in Spain, the other half in France, then completed the draft in 1886. So while traveling Europe ni siya gihimo niya ang Noli. So lack of fund delayed the book's publication until a fellow illustrator, Maximo Viola, which is his best friend, lent him 300 pesos for the printing of the first 2,000 copies. So si Maximo Viola, so with the help of Maximo, his best friend kanang while nag-travel sila ni Rizal sa Europe, he learned that kinahanglan ni Rizal og kwarta para ma-publish ang Noli. Moto, he offered to help Rizal in printing the first 2,000 copies. So by 1887, Rizal was already sending out copies of the Noli to his friend and the book began to take flight. Next. That's all, and Miss Pipito will continue the report.
So, hello everyone. My name is Laika Pipito and I will now tackle to you the motivation of Rizal behind his novel Noli Me Tangere. So, Noli Me Tangere is a Spanish word, but when you translate it in English, it's called Touch Me Not. So, in Noli Me Tangere, the plot revolves around a young man named Crisostomo Ibarra. Crisostomo Ibarra is the main character in this novel who experienced the abusive and cruel actions of the Spanish civil administration against the Filipino. Although it has a plot that looks like it was an ordinary novel. The story is deeply connected with the real life suffering of the Filipinos during the colonization of Spain. So Rizal used his novel Noli Me Tangere for us to know what really happened to our ancestor or to our fellow Filipinos during the colonization of Spanish, and it will be further explained by Miss Bakyal. Next, please. So the title Noli Me Tangere has a biblical reference to the Gospel of John, which Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene and uttered this word, "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father." And according to Rizal, ang choice daw sa title kay Fitra siya because he intended to write about themes that were taboo in Philippines for century, like things that people dared not to touch. And Rizal first planned to write his novel in French, considered to be the language of the intellectual in Europe at that time, according to his biographer. However, he shifted it to Spanish because he intended to reach out to his countrymen in Philippines. He even explained that he must kanang he must wake up from slumber the spirit of his country, and he must first propose nato na mga kababayan ang isang example na kung saan maaari nating labanan ang mga masama nating katangian. And afterwards, if ato nang mabag-o kay many writers would rise up to present our country para ikanang malaki ni sa Europe. On the initial page of the Noli, the dedication titled Ami Patria clearly articulated Rizal's purpose for writing the novel. So, Ami Patria means to my motherland. In Patria, Rizal wrote that our country daw kahit talaan ng kahirapan ng mga tao, it feels like kanang merong nakaupit na cancer sa atin na like lisod gi siya ayuhon and nag and kanang murag nagpalala ni siya and kanang nagdudulot ito na kanang pinakamatalim na sakit kaya kanang maraming beses sa gitna ng mga makabagong kultura na nais niyang pukawin daw. And we are still finding paghihapon sa best cure para maayo ni na cancer. And kanang nasa dito sa yan libro na kanang will do daw just what ancients do na like expose on the steps of the temple so that each of one would who would come to invoke the divine would propose a cure for us. And for us, your son, I also suffer any defects and failings. So lastly, before I will end up my topic, as what I've said earlier, that this novel, No Limitang Here, was geared towards exposing the ills of Philippines colonial society under Spain, and through novel And through this novel, Noli Me Tangere, readers also get glimpse of how Rizal saw our country back then. That's all. Thank you.
So good day everyone, I am Zachiko Shane Bakyal, and now after knowing what Rizal did in publishing the novel and his motivation in writing Noli Me Tangere, now let's proceed to the plot of the said novel. So the story begins at a party that was prepared by Kapitan Tiago to welcome Crisostomo Ibarra back to the Philippines after 7 years of studying in Europe. So in the event was attended by friars and prominent figures of San Diego. So during the event, majority of the people kay praised and congratulated Crisostomo Ibarra because of his achievements. However, nay usa ka tawo who did the opposite. And who is this person? It is the former curate Padre Damaso. So while everyone is praising and congratulating Ibarra, no, si Padre Damaso belittled and slandered Ibarra. However, Ibarra brushed off the insult and took no offense. So kani manggong si Kapitan Tiago, naa dyan siya kalagot sa Ibarra family. He even hated the father of Crisostomo Ibarra na si Don Rafael Ibarra. So one of the notable lines of Padre Damaso in this event is when he told Ibarra na bakit ka pa mag-aaksaya ng oras at pagod na mag-aral sa ibang bansa kung kayang-kaya mo naman itong gawin dito sa Pilipinas. Pero kaning si Crisostomo Ibarra, iyarang gidedma ang gisulti ni Padre Damaso. So he only smiled and took no offense about it. So, throughout the pages of the novel, the characters could be seen navigating the complex realities of colonial Philippines. So, coming back to the story, Ibarra excused himself and was shown rekindling links with his fiancée, Maria Clara. So, dito nag-reminisce sila sa ilahang exchanging of letters katong naa pa sa Europe si Ibarra. So, dito no, gabasa-basa sila. But not everything was fine and dandy for Ibarra. Upon his return, he learned about the ills that plagued his town as well as the abuses of friars to which his late father fell victim to. So nahibaw-an niya from Lieutenant Guevara na his father, Don Rafael, was accused of being heretic and filibuster. So when we say heretic or hereje, it is someone who goes against the church, and when we say filibuster or filibustero, it is someone who goes against the government. And since irehe man daw kuno si Don Rafael Ibarra, syempre naadyo pagdumot niya si Padre Damaso. Kaya di ba sa una ang mga friars kay murag highly kayo ang tanaw sa mga tao nila ba? And someone who goes against the church, syempre mura siyang insulto para sa mga pari. Then mauto, mas di ba si Padre Damaso na siya kalagot ni Don Rafael Ibarra. Mas isamot pa jud ang kalagot ni Padre Damaso because one time gipugnan ni Don Rafael ang usa ka Spanish tax collector and ang usa ka student kay lagi gibuli kuno sa tax collector ang kato na student. Well, ang intention naman dyan ni Don Rafael ato is awaton ang duha, but nay unexpected scenario or happenings. Naparok ang katong tax collector. And the death of the tax collector was blamed on Don Rafael and gidakop siya tungod ato. So fast forward, happy tata masolve ang case ni Don Rafael. However, nagkasakit si Don Rafael and unfortunately, he died. But Padre Damaso wasn't contented. So nanugo siya og tao na ibalhin daw ang katumpateng lawas si Don Rafael from Catholic cemetery to Chinese cemetery because he thought it is inappropriate to allow a heretic such as Don Rafael to have a Catholic burial ground. So Ibarra found an antagonist in Padre Damaso, but revenge was not in his plans. Instead, Ibarra fulfilled his plan on building a school in San Diego, staying true to his belief that education was crucial for his nation's progress. So during the inauguration sa school or opening sa school, Ibarra almost got killed. So good thing, natabangan siya ni Elias, a boatman, and giwarningan siya na be cautious of his actions that could anger the friars. And after that incident, Ibarra organized a luncheon. So here, another conflict or confrontation happened between Ibarra and Padre Damaso. So take note, in this luncheon, Padre Damaso was not invited pero niadto gihapon siya. So nang gate crash siya, no? So si Padre Damaso, being Padre Damaso, wala niya hunungi si Ibarra. So during the salo-salo, iyang giinsulto si Ibarra, and Ibarra, being Ibarra himself, of course, iyara gihapong gi-ignore ang pang-insulto ni Padre Damaso. So however, katong giinsulto na ni Padre Damaso ang papa ni Ibarra na si Don Rafael, that's the time that Ibarra was no longer restrained himself at Padre Damaso. So in a fit of an anger, Ibarra took a knife against Padre Damaso's neck and threatened to slit his throat as he told everyone of the abuses committed by the friar and the desecration he did to his father. So the conflict was on tension, right? So good thing na si Maria Clara na iya ra yung napakalma si Ibarra and prevented him from killing the friar. So kanijong si Padre Damaso kay hilig man kayo na siya revenge, wala siya kadawat sa gihimo ni Ibarra. So in an act of his revenge, iyang giingnan ni Padre Damaso si Kapitan Tiago na papa ni Maria Clara. Well, si Kapitan Tiago this time kay murag gaduha-duha na siya ni Ibarra. And gitok advantage na siya ni Padre Damaso. So iyang giingnan si Kapitan Tiago na to not allow his daughter Maria Clara na ipakasal ni Ibarra. Instead, ipakasal ni siya ni Alfonso Linares. So after some time, a revolt was blamed on Ibarra na siya daw ang leader, which caused him to be imprisoned. Even though wa man jud siya ilabot ani na revolt. But with the help of Elias, he escaped and went to see Maria Clara, who was soon marrying the man her father chose for her. So, in a heartbreaking confrontation, because na may misunderstanding na nahitabo dire, Ibarra and Maria Clara exchanged accusations, and in the process, nahibawan ni Ibarra na ang biological father or ang tinuod jud na papa ni Maria Clara kay si Padre Damaso. Kay si Padre Damaso, iyang gay-rape ang mama ni Maria Clara. So mao to, nakarealize si Ibarra na maodeng tutol si Padre Damaso sa kasalan nila ni Maria Clara. So fast forward, with the use of both, gitakas ni Elias si Ibarra. Even though na nakalagpas na sila sa ubang Guardia Civil, of course, nasundan gihapon sila. And to outsmart the enemy, Elias thought of jumping into the water para ingnon lagi na siya daw si Ibarra. And the guards rained shots on the person in the water, not knowing that they were aiming at the wrong man. So as turmoil and confusion engulfed the town, Maria Clara thought that Ibarra had been killed, and this caused her endless grief. So si Maria Clara then asked na magmadre na lang siya kay if dili gani, magpakamatay na lang daw siya. So si Padre Damaso wala sa siya mahimo, so nisugot na lang sad siya sa gusto ni Maria Clara. So in the novel, it was later revealed that Ibarra was not dead and that Elias was the one fatality shot. In the latter passages, the dying Elias was waiting for Ibarra, but instead, iyang nakita dito kay si Basilio, who was now an orphan since her mother Sisa already died. So he instructed Basilio to find the treasure of Ibarra buried at the cemetery and use it to get an education. He reminded Basilio to never lose hope, and if one day freedom and progress would come to his country, to not forget those who labored in the night. And that is the end of the novel. So, within this general contour of the narrative, Rizal wove a complex story and subplots. So, reading through the novel, different characters and their corresponding stories unfolded as told through the voice of an unseen narrator. So, truly, the pages of Noli Me Tangere reflected the lives of people living in the complicated world of colonial Philippines. And that is all for Noli Me Tangere, context and content.